I am Troy. This is Relationship Radio, blogtalkradio.com/Relationship Radio FM. Tonight we're talking about relationships. We're talking about relationships with families. Should you have one regardless of the circumstances? Should you have one regardless of the circumstances? What exactly do I mean, should you have one regardless of the circumstances? Well, that's just pretty much what I mean, regardless of the circumstances. Now, a lot of people that I know, they are living in some type of quagmire, if you will. And that quagmire is saying to them that despite everything, you should be at one with your family. I'm going to talk about that. I want to talk about Donald Trump for a second. And I want to talk about Donald Trump because every day I see something new about Donald Trump, and what individuals need to understand when it comes to Donald Trump, there is a perspective out there in politics that we are never going to see again. Once again, there is a perspective out there in politics that we will never see again. And that perspective is run government to hell with the people. I can't tell you how many times I stroll through my various talk show formats that I listen to daily, and I hear the latest new gossip on one Mr. Donald Trump. It kind of throws me into a quagmire because I'm saying to myself, what people need to understand when it comes to politics, Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey changed the narrative of politics. In the last 40 years, Republicans have coddled the American citizen, mainly the black person. We have been coddled. People, that ride has been proven to be very expensive. So what I don't think that people understand, I don't think people understand that if in fact Donald Trump gets convicted, evicted, whatever it is you want to claim, what black folks need to understand is President Barack Obama is not coming back. He's not coming back. He is not coming back. If he gets out of office by any means, do understand his replacement will continue the vigor that is the new political government here in the United States. Or should I say, it's the return of the old government here in the United States. People, I want to thank you for listening. You guys could be anywhere else in the world. This is Relationship Radio. We are talking about the relationship with your family. Should you have one with your family, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of the circumstances. What I'm basically saying here tonight on Relationship Radio, do your family get a pass for all the indiscrepancies, insufficiencies, all the drama, all the delinquencies, all the rhetoric? Should you have a relationship with your family by any means necessary? I personally don't agree with this narrative. All those that are listening, if you got something to say, you can hit the number 1 button. It'll put you in a producer's kiosk. It'll tell me that you have something that you want to add to this topic when I go to the phones. Just hit the number 1 button on your phone and it'll put you into another format. Okay. So we're talking about relationships with family. This is what we do here on Relationship Radio. We talk about relationships. And the one thing that I can truly say when it comes to my family taught me well. Yes, they did. My family taught me All right, so there's a couple of lessons when it comes to my family. If I want to talk about from the perspective of my father, then I got taught a very good lesson. The lesson that I learned from my mother: women will hate for life. That's what I learned from my mom. I learned from my mom: women will hate you for life. There's a saying that once a good girl's gone bad, she's gone forever. I kind of believe that narrative. My mom taught me that narrative. However, when it comes to the relationship that I have with my peers, people, I was brought up in a family that had all boys. Because I was brought up in a family that had all boys, it was way too much testosterone in my family. Currently, I do not speak to my brothers. I'll get to that later on. But I currently do not speak to all of my living brothers. It was straight fuck Troy Day, and they I don't know what calendars they were looking at that had fuck Troy Day as a holiday. I don't know, but I had one brother that didn't even invite me and my other brother to my dad's funeral. Then the other brother that didn't get invited to the funeral decides that he wants to, basically go on YouTube, listen to some jacked up videos about me, and then get mad at me and then echo those same words of those individuals that would make bad videos. So I currently don't speak to my brothers. People, I am a man. You will respect me by any means necessary. I will disown you, just like rich people. The only people that I see that goes through a bunch of drama, or should I say, the only people that I see that relates to drama is poor people. Rich people, their mindset is different. You better respect the brand. You better respect the culture that we're in. I don't see that with poor people. I'm not saying black, I'm not saying white. I'm saying poor people. Because poor people seem to be dialed a little different. Poor people seem to be on a, we're all together, we're all in this hardship, we all came up hard, that's just life, we came up hard, we are all together, yada, 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 yada. And with that being said, my family wanted to stay in that mindset. So as time went on, I could no longer relate to my family. This is why we are talking about this tonight on Relationship Radio. Relationships, should you have one with your family, regardless of the circumstances? I say no. What do you say? Because I will not agree with that narrative. People, here's what I believe. I believe that self-preservation, in fact, is the first rule of life. Self-preservation. Because self-preservation is the first rule of life, then respect that rule of life, of self-preservation. I also believe that if, in fact, someone has a title, if they don't live up to that title, then you either fire them or you get rid of them like you would do a car. People, I have a 70-inch screen TV. If it didn't work, it would not be in my house. It would not be just in my house as a good ornament. It will be gone. People, what I am telling you right in here, right today, here on Relationship Radio, that is the sentiment that I have. If you cannot be the person that you're supposed to be, we cannot coexist. Hence the term, we no longer relate. And if we can't relate, we cannot have a relationship. Those are hard, cold facts. I don't know too many people that aren't doing drugs that are hanging with people that are doing drugs. I don't know too many criminals that hang out with police officers. Criminals and police officers are natural enemies. They do not relate on a scale that is cataclysmic in size. They don't. I'm here to bark those same words. I cannot, I will not relate to anything that does not identify with the very title that it's supposed to be. I can't do that. I am talking about relationships. Should you have one with your family, regardless of the circumstances? I don't think that's a good idea. I don't. I don't think that's a good idea. And here's why. People, let me tell you something. If you look at a flock of birds around August or September and you live up north, you'll notice that they'll flock south for the winter. They're out of here. If you look at salmon, when it's time to spawn or whatever it is they call it, to mate, kind of like a spawn, they just lay a whole bunch of eggs in the water. They actually go upstream. They will do this as a default setting. A remote control. It has an on button. When you want the TV to turn on, you hit the on button or the green button. When you want to turn the TV off, you hit the red button. That button has a function. Every remote, although it may not control that specific item, every remote based on those same premises. If you have someone in your life that is supposed to be your brother, then what should be is that person should be your brother based on those circumstances. You should not have a brother that's dubbing as a criminal. You shouldn't have a brother that's dubbing as your enemy. You shouldn't. You shouldn't. People, grown hens don't live in a nest. Grown hens don't live in a nest. That's just not how it works. That rule of thumb does not apply. Grown hens do not live in a nest. Grown chickens, grown birds don't live in a nest. That too is a default setting. So when it comes to family, people that you're supposed to love, supposed to have your best interest at heart, should you have a relationship with your family regardless of the circumstances? Should you? Let me tell you what I see, what I've seen. I've seen a lot of relationships that were somewhat not the relationship it should be. So I'm going to talk specifics. There was a movie out that was made some time ago, and it was called Not Easily Broken. Very good movie. This movie was produced by Bishop T.D. Jakes. A very strong message in the movie. I gained much more respect for the Bucktooth Bandit. After he made this movie, I gained much more respect for the Bucktooth Bandit. I just crack myself up sometimes. You gotta forgive me. And I said, bravo, Mr. Jakes, bravo. Because he made a movie that was one of the most biggest problems in both marriages and dating women of color. These women are still, I'm not going to say it. I'm on a different forum. Let me woosah for a second, people. Give me a second. Give me a second. Okay. Y'all got to forgive me. I'm having flashbacks of my other forum. Y'all got to forgive me. All right. So what I've been seeing is women that are still being pacified. They still hang around their mamas. And that's not the issue more than their mama being all up in the Kool-Aid. All up in the Kool-Aid. So let me give you an example of the movie, tell you a little bit about the movie, have you not seen it? It was about a movie about a woman that had one of those bitter old women. Yes, it was a woman of color. And this woman was dictating to her daughter about her man, and this woman was telling her daughter that her man is no good, and every time he did the littlest thing, all she referred to was putting this man out. And this woman ultimately ended up talking to her daughter's husband like he was trash, and everything he did, it bothered her too. And this was the movie Not Easily Broken. If you hadn't seen the movie, go see it now. After I'm done, anyway. After I'm done. Don't go right now, but after I'm done. So this movie showed what happens when the mama doesn't have a life, when the mama isn't married, when the mama always want to hang around the daughter, and the daughter obliges the mama. This movie, showed those individuals that want to stay around their mama. Well, I got to live around my mama because my mama watched the kids. Well, I got to stay around my mama because she's sick. Well, I got to stay around my mama because my mama, every Thursday we go to bingo. And I got to stay around my mama because we go to church together. And I got to stay around my mama. And it's mama, 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 mama. I dated a woman that mirrored that situation. Same thing. We talking about relationships? Should you have one with your family, regardless of the circumstances here on the Blog Talk Radio Network's Relationship Radio, 102.1 FM.com. I'm your host, Troy. Oh boy, I think we got a good one. So this woman that I was dating, her mother proceeded to try and check me. Her mother was a truant officer. Her mother was one of the officers that she was something in the school system. She had a badge. She was in the school system. All right. So she was in the school system, and she was always telling me about how she ran her daughter's boyfriends away. And I had to always listening to things that was really underhanding me, and she was always taking stabs at me. So one day we was at her house, and I'm very good at putting people in their place. So I listened to her mother bark off some nonsense, and so I said to her, I said, well, listen, I'm 40. I was 40. This was 2010, so uh, I was 41. So I said, I'm 40. I did well in life. I told her all the things that I had, which was probably 45% of the stuff that I have now. I've grown so much since. And I really told her, like, I played my cards right in life. Like, I own my house. You had a house given to you. I own my house. So we kind of laid that down to her. And of course, I had just started my radio career. And I made sure when I was on radio, I made sure I talked about her mother. I made sure I talked about this woman. I made sure that I talked about this movie, and I said, that's how it is with this woman that I know. I made sure I talked about her. People, I'm going to tell you something about radio if you don't know. It's a bug. It's very hard to do. I can do a 3-hour radio slot by myself. That's hard to do. I am doing this tonight at 7:30. I rock this thing from 7:30 to 9. I actually started this thing at 7 this morning. I have a program that I've involved myself in from 7 to 9. Then I have another program from 9 to 10. Then I have another program from 6 to 7. Then I have this program from 7:30 to 9. I'm all in. Excuse me. It's very hard to do radio. It's very, very hard. I know many of people that tried to do it, they failed because they to death. They was aholics. When you do this thing and it says Blog Talk Radio and then the light comes on, it's a very exquisite radio panel that we have here, and it says you're on the air. And 2 minutes in, they're oh, you're tanking. You're tanking. Not too many people can hold a show for an hour and a half solo. All right. So I was on radio and I used to put this woman on blast. I love doing it. I love, like, I'm an in-your-face type of guy. But this woman, I'm going to tell you the features that was involved with this woman. Talking about the mother now. Her mother worked for the school system, as I stated. So that means when the school system was out during the summer, her mother had off as well. So her mother was off, and she was too, because she worked for the school system as well. So she was off. So in the summertime, we really got to hang out. I work for myself, so hang out. And that just got under her mama's skin. Now, the unfortunates, while we were dating, her grandmother passed away. Her mother then took possession of the house. Her uncles was living on the second floor. They were living on the first floor. And something just didn't jive with me at all. So here it is. Her uncle, which was her mother's brother, he was mentally disabled. He had 5 children. But for some reason, her mother anointed her to take care of her uncle. So she did not have a life. And I asked her a question. I said, can you explain to me, how does a person that's disabled, how does the care for this person jump over his 5 children and end up landing onto the niece? People, this woman had it bad. The relationship that this woman had with her mother was the absolute worst, and she knew it. It was the worst. This was the first and only woman my mom actually told me, leave this woman alone. My mom never suggested that I leave a woman alone. I could tell my mom, hey, mom, yeah, I met Charles Manson's daughter. Oh, is that the guy that killed all those people? Yep, I met his daughter. Me and her, we hitting it off. Oh, that's good. But I was kind of taken back with my mom when I told my mom about this individual. My mom said, leave this woman alone. I was like, wow. My mom ultimately told me her mother is actually doing that by design. My mom told me, let me tell you something about these women. A lot of these women want to keep their children close. A lot of these women, they don't want to move away from their mama. A lot of these women, and my mom just went on a whole woman skit. Honestly, it was the sit down, y'all. And what I mean by the sit down, it was that sit down talk, that the man normally have with their daddy. I mean, I had it with my daddy, but that was the sit down. My mom said, take a chair, son. Let me tell you about these damn women and their damn mamas. Let me tell you about these damn women that don't want to let their children go. My mama made sure she did not coddle me. She did us. Let me change that, us, because it was us. It wasn't just me. And my mom seen to it that my upbringing was not hindered by her Band-Aid raising. And what I mean by Band-Aid raising is a lot of mothers, they take the blunt of the lessons for children, which ultimately end up being a Band-Aid before the wound, and the child never have any scars. So what happens is once they get older, they're not scarred. Their skin, they don't have that tough skin yet. They still have that baby smooth skin at 18. And then what happens is they go out in life at 20 and get all into trouble, don't know how to live. You know, there was one crazy thing that I heard that made a lot of sense. And I hate to say it, but it's true. If you got a kid that you're sending off to college, have them drink every weekend before they go to college. And I said, this is crazy. I don't even drink, y'all. But here it is, and I feel something special about alcohol. But when I heard this narrative, I said, well, I actually bleeped it. That makes all the sense in the world. You see, what you don't want to do is what they said. I'm not saying this. I'm actually echoing these words. What you don't want to do is send your children to college naked and tolerantless. You want to send your children to college with a tolerance for alcohol. You don't want your children to be at a party and they don't even have a tolerance to alcohol. And then what happens is youth and no tolerance to alcohol only equals to disaster. I thought that was very true. I did. I thought that was some true stuff. I actually said, wow, you know that's actually, that makes a lot of sense. That makes all the sense in the world. So what happens when we're talking about relationships, people, when individuals when they are that close to their mamas, life doesn't seem can get in there to really teach them a lesson. Life can't do it. Mama done blocked them. Every time they was about to go through something difficult, mama swarm in and help them out. Mama is hindering the growth of that child. This is Relationship Radio on the Blog Talk Radio Network. I'm your host, Troy. Oh, boy. We're doing this thing live every weeknight from 7:30 to 9 p.m. I'm here. I'm doing this thing. Got anything you want to say to me? What you need to do, hit the number 1 button. Once you do that, it's going to light my board up. Tell me you got something you want to add to this conversation. I appreciate all you being here. You guys could be anywhere else in the world, but instead, you're listening to this big head dude on radio, and I appreciate that. What we're talking about tonight, relationships. Should you have one with your family, regardless of the circumstances?